Hello and welcome back to F1 Every Week. I am your host Ben Wevel, and today I'm going to be giving you my opinion on the 2023 Formula 1 World Championship calendar, which came out earlier this week, as well as the update on the so far empty Williams seat for next season. You can listen to the podcast on the streaming platform of your choice, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But now, without further ado, let's get into episode 75. On Tuesday, the FIA announced a 24 race calendar for 2023, as well as the obligatory 3-day test in Bahrain from the 23rd to the 25th of February. As this season is coming to a close before December, there was some speculation that 2023's opening round would be in late February, but the opener at Bahrain is now in its predictable place on the 5th of March. We stay in the Middle East for round 2 at Saudi Arabia before making the jump to Melbourne for the third Grand Prix of the year. F1 flies back the other way to China and round 4 for the first Chinese Grand Prix since 2019 due to COVID. The sport has seen a bump of popularity as of late in China thanks to the addition of the Shanghai prodigy Zhou Guanyu to the grid for Alfa Romeo. Baku kicks off the first double-header of the season with a long trip to Miami next on the list. This is somewhat of a bizarre choice for a double-header, as a flight from the Middle East to Miami, with billions of pounds in car parts in less than 3 days, seems implausible, but we'll see how it works close to the time. After 2 weeks of respite, Imola, Monaco and Spain make up a late May to early June European triple-header, with Monaco having retained its place on the calendar until 2025. Canada is next, which still remains an odd detour in an otherwise all-European summer, and the double-header of Spielberg and Silverstone follow 2 weeks later. Rather than Hungary closing out the first half of the season, Spa does so instead, the final race before the summer break on the 30th of July. I hope that Spa's move to this part of the calendar is a taste of more to come, rather than a bizarre parting gift. After a month's wait, F1 returns from the summer break to the shores of Zandvoort on the 28th of August, followed by Monza a week later. The second Asian leg of the calendar commences on the 17th of September with Singapore, followed, as is the case this year, by Japan a week later. The one race in the calendar that I am so very frustrated by is round 19 on the 8th of October, Qatar. Why Qatar? There are so many better circuits than the Losail circuit to choose from. It was an absolute snooze fest in 2021, and the fact that Qatar is favoured over Nürburgring, Hockenheim, Sepang, Fuji, Istanbul Park, Jerez, Portimao, and more is just shocking. These are all Grade 1 circuits that could have a place on the calendar, but instead, that place is being taken up by Qatar. I would even have probably taken the Korean International Circuit or the Bud International Circuit over this. There's a reason why it's called the F1 Circus. It's run by clowns. Moving on, the Americas stint kicks off with a triple-header of Austin, Mexico and Brazil before the third and final race in the United States this season, or next season, the Las Vegas Grand Prix. The first Saturday race since the 1985 South African Grand Prix at Kyalami, which, in my opinion, should also have been included on next year's calendar, but is still in the works to become a Grade 1 circuit. Finally, on the 26th of November, after a 19-hour plane journey, the 2023 Formula 1 season will conclude, as it does every year, in Abu Dhabi. Now, looking at the calendar generally, I don't think that there are too many huge issues in terms of sustainability, which F1 are certainly prioritising, as other than the race in Canada in the middle of the Europe season and that massive long haul from Miami to Abu Dhabi, F1 has clearly tried their best to keep travelling to a minimum. However, I just cannot look past the huge blemish that is the Qatar Grand Prix. Not only did Qatar manage to milk an entire World Cup quality stadium out of their enforced labour, but an F1 circuit as well. I mean, the whole premise of this race, as well as numerous others, such as Bahrain or Azerbaijan, just leaves a really sour taste in the mouth. And, if we're looking at Bahrain and Baku, at least they have good racing going for them. That same definitely cannot be said for Qatar. It's really sad to see that Formula One is again sacrificing both their dignity and credibility as a progressive sport and the quality of racing, as I was talking about earlier, for a massive paycheck. If Spa leaves the calendar for 2024, I might genuinely consider not watching that season and putting the podcast up for adoption. Now on to a very upsetting piece of news this week. From the man, the myth, the greatest of all time, Nicholas Goatifi, who is hanging up his racing boots after an illustrious 3-season stint in the sport, which saw some of the most perplexing racecraft in Formula One history. In fact, some of the incidents which I shall describe are so mystifying that only a man of such an inflated intellect as the GOAT's own could fathom them. He is obviously best known for deciding the 2021 World Championship result in Max Verstappen's favour, thanks to his poetic shunt at turn 14 of the Yas Marina circuit. Crashing twice in one weekend this year at Saudi Arabia was also a truly artistically poor display, followed by the Canadian causing a mega shunt at Australia's qualifying session with Lance Stroll. Sliding into the barriers at Monaco under the safety car this year was also a lowlight. But for every moment of chaos, the GOAT has produced an equally fantastic performance, such as his Q3 in the rain in Britain, and his first points at Hungary, which nearly led to a podium. In all seriousness though, it was definitely time for Nicholas to go, and it now leaves the door open for any F2 hopefuls such as maybe Jack Doohan. We'll see if Alpine are willing to trade him to Williams for a couple of years. Maybe Felipe Drugovich, possibly, who could possibly hang up his boots quite swiftly as the Aston Martin test and reserve driver. They could do a little Mercedes-powered exchange there, possibly. Also, Logan Sargent, obviously, who is Williams' probably best shot at the moment. And despite me making an episode last week about Nick de Vries looking likely to go to AlphaTauri, that isn't set in stone yet, so we could possibly see him at Williams next year as well. So, at the moment, the door is pretty much open for anybody at Williams, anybody at Haas. But it's looking a little conclusive at AlphaTauri. I'll keep you updated on all of the F1 transfer news and let you know as to who looks likely to land this seat in the coming weeks. Thank you for listening to F1 Every Week. Tune in next time for my review of the 2023 Singapore Grand Prix.